Ladies and gentlemen, I got another incredible interview. I have been waiting to interview this young lady. She's absolutely phenomenal. Wait till I show you the clip that really made me want to interview her. But I got to give a quick rundown of who she is. Her name is Dee Foster. She is a communication strategist, PR expert, writer. She works with Chad O. Jackson. She helped them with the Martin Luther King Project, the documentary, a docuseries that they put out, which was absolutely incredible. But here's the part that's incredible to me. 17-time first team All-American gymnast and the first black gymnast at the University of Alabama. Absolutely incredible. But let me show y'all the clip real quick because I didn't know who Dee was at first, and then I saw this clip and I said, I have to interview her. I noticed she's brilliant. Then I found all these wonderful things out about her afterwards. But let's play the clip that I saw first for Dee, and then we're going to get into it.
The black community is doing so much worse now than we were even like 15 minutes after slavery.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding. There was a thriving black community in the days after slavery, hi Frederick Douglass, in the days before the civil rights movement. There were, more businesses owned, more homes owned. Family unit was intact, a mom and a dad in the home, children being raised in the church. The faith in the God of the Bible was paramount. And the sort of the crucible of how families even came to be in the black community, right? Like that was the common denominator was the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Now y'all know why I'm interviewing her, right? After listening to that, it couldn't have been said better. Help me welcome to the show, Dee Foster.
Hey, Brandon, thanks so much for having me on.
Well, it is my pleasure. I'm so excited to talk to you. It's good to talk to people that have common sense, that's willing to stand up for truth. And you are one of those individuals. And I want to talk about this idea based on what you said. There's this idea, I think, from the community, and black community, and also the white community that have a lot of white guilt. They tend to skip over generations of black people and the black experience in America. Can you talk to us about that? Because you mentioned a little bit in the clip how they just go all the way, they jump over all of the black success that have happened after slavery to just go back to slavery. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, that was an interview I did with 1819 News and Brian Dawson. And that, we were talking really about the fact that this all started because a black publication in Birmingham had put me in the publication in kind of a roundup story about black women who have done a bunch of really good things in the state of Alabama. And one of the people they featured was a dude pretending to be a woman. And I lost it and I went all the way off. So that's even why I was doing that interview. And I think to your point, what's popular in the culture is to be as victimized and marginalized as the narrative will allow, right? And so we have all of these contributors to that narrative. We have people who are dependent on the government and have been so generationally. And then we have white liberals who aid and abet that, right? We've had a lot of, especially, really starting in 2020, this thing really escalated. The dude who died of the fentanyl overdose, everybody really used that as an excuse to pretend that black people just can't get a leg up. And I know from my personal experience, that's not my lived experience, right? I've had a very good experience in terms of being able to nurture my gifts, have them nurtured by people, have them developed by people. When someone spotted when I was 4 years old that I had a talent to be upside down and be on my hands and do gymnastics, people kind of swooped in and said, we it's our responsibility to nurture this child. It wasn't about my skin color. It wasn't about anything to do with any immutable characteristic. It was about the talent. And the talent was God-given. And so I was very fortunate to have a mom and parents who said, your talent is not your own. This was given to you. It is our responsibility to steward that and to make sure that you are, with the best coaches in the country who can also help you steward it. So this was my experience. And every single one of my coaches was white. Every single one of the judges who judged me, white. I was never discriminated against. This I didn't, in the whitest, but arguably the whitest sport in America. I was never discriminated against, right? Like there's like gymnastics and figure skating are probably the two whitest sports. And I didn't have a problem. In fact, I had a very opposite experience in that my coaches pushed me hard, not because I was black, but because they said, she's got the thing, like she's got that gift, she's got the talent. We have to develop this as far as it can go. And judges did the same thing. They were hard on me, not because I was Black, but because they saw potential in me and they wanted me to not sort of skate by just on raw talent alone, but to actually develop that gift into a skill. So I don't, this whole, and that continued also, Brandon, in my professional life. When I first got into communications right out of college, people just pushed me. And it was not because of the color of my skin. They didn't, move away from me because of the color of my skin, or say, you can't do this profession because you're Black and most Black people don't do this. These are not conversations I had. These are not the kind of people that were around me. I will say that you attract what you think about. So if you're thinking victim, if you're thinking marginalized, if you're thinking I can't get a leg up, if you're thinking the white man has his foot on my neck, you're going to draw that to you. I'm not saying that white people are doing that en masse. I'm saying that you're going to draw sort of that marginalized experience. You're going to draw a victim experience into your life. So I just, I'm I grew up, listening to people like Bear Bryant, like I ain't nothing but a winner. I ain't never been nothing but a winner. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like my energy. That's my vibe.
Yeah, and I love that you said that because I've been arguing with Aries Spears, the
Oh Lord.
comedian. That guy, he was in my DM yesterday, cussing and acting crazy, and he's mad because I'm not a victim. I haven't been discriminated against in my
Right.
life that I know of. Maybe somebody did behind my back. Who cares? If I don't notice it, it must not even be effective.
Yeah.
And I have a similar experience as you, but I grew up in an all Black neighborhood. But still, there were white coaches and people who poured into me. When I went to college, there were white people that poured into me. One of
Yeah.
the most pivotal people that had an impact in my life, named John. He was a white guy. He helped me, when my kid was very young. He paid for my kid to go to college anywhere he want when he graduated high school. I
Mm.
mean, this guy decided to look out for me, not because I was a Black guy. And all that I have done in my life, all of my successes have come from being a good person and not necessarily because the color of my skin, because I have good Black people that I work with and I have good
Mhm.
white people that I work with. And
Yep.
and the people are putting the lenses of racism on and the lenses of victimhood. And like you said, you see it everywhere when you're wearing the lenses. I mean,
That's
somebody
right.
can be upset with you and flip you off at the stoplight, and if you got the lens of racism on, you think it's because you're Black. You think it's because they're racist, not just because they're a-hole. And so, but here's the thing that I want to hear from you on too is that you mentioned this gap between Black people now and then
Mhm.
slavery. There was this middle part where I felt like a lot of it's not just I feel, it's statistically proven. Black people
Yeah.
had a tremendous amount of acceleration and success after slavery was abolished, after they were freed. Madam C.J. Walker was one of them. I mean, I know she's one of the most famous, but like what late 1800s, early 1900s, she was the first female millionaire. I mean, you have Black Wall Street in Oklahoma. You have you can go down the list. Harlem,
Yeah.
all of these Black successes. For some reason, Black people that are victims, they look over this. Can you explain this period of time and how Black people were successful?
Well, I mean, being a victim is very profitable today.
Yeah.
That's the truth. I mean, there's a greater payoff to keep dragging the past into the present and hurling it toward the future. There's a greater payoff for some people to do that rather than to actually apply themselves to a skill, discover what God-given gifts they've been given, because everyone has been given some God-given gifts,
Mhm.
usually more than one. But it's easier to sort of rest on the laurels of, if I complain enough, if I join this group enough, if I act, bliggity enough, I said what I said, if I engage in all of this sort of nefarious activity and pretend that I'm suffering the same kinds of things that people in Frederick Douglass's era suffered, then I'm going to get free stuff. I'm going to get a break when I screw up. I'm going to be able to screw up as much as I want to and not suffer any consequences. I think there's a couple things that are really at play and kind of at the foundation of that mentality, that where the gap is ignored, the gap where Black people were thriving, Black people were homeowners, Black people were getting married, having children, successful families. They were God fearing. They were going to church, and not just going to church. They were living out the gospel of Jesus Christ. Like, they were walking in authority in the earth, right? Ignoring that gap is profitable for Black people, some Black people. And unfortunately, I personally believe that it's a large majority of the 13%, which is extraordinarily sad. But there's a couple things that are at play. There's no fear of God, there's no fear of consequences. And I personally also believe that the rise of the matriarchy, the rise of feminism is very much at the root. We are now in, for the very first time, the very first fatherless generation who are now young adults, and they were all raised by women who hate men. This is a phenomenon. This has never happened before. And it is this, it's this ethnicity where it is the most prevalent and where it is the most pronounced. And I believe that sort of this cycle that people keep sort of going in and out of, right? Where there's government dependency, where there's way too many women raising boys, and I'm talking about like a gaggle of geese, like a hen house, and
Yeah.
there's one boy or two boys, and there's no male influence, there's no alpha male influence. And I'm talking about biblical alpha male. I just did a post about this. That is really sort of permeating the culture. But not just the Black culture. It's permeating every culture. It's permeating society. It's permeating this country. And so I'm concerned that this what sort of maybe began as the civil rights movement, which was a farce, which was a fraud, which was a Marxist ideology permeating the government and the country. That in and of itself is, the most inauspicious beginnings of what we're seeing today. But I think now there's been sort of like, it's like a wild hair at this point. Like people are just, we're careening off a mountain with this at this
Yeah.
point. People do not care at all about their decisions having consequences for other people. They don't care. That's why you're able to see wanton murder, wanton assault. I mean, just absolutely recklessness and carelessness for the human condition. That is happening now in the Black community. And it's making me wonder if, like, was there like a kill switch in the jab? Like, what is actually happening here? Because this is not normal behavior.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head when it comes to kind of the residual effect of not having a father, strong leadership. Because I figured this a while ago. What happens is that if you don't have a dad as a young girl, right, and you
Mhm.
grow up in the house with your mama, and a lot of times I don't know. I wouldn't. I'm not a girl, so I don't know. But this is just my opinion. A lot of times, mama and daughter bump heads, and that's
Mm.
why having a father gives that balance. So mama and daughter bumping heads. Daughter has never seen what a real man look like. Daughter has only seen what mama's imagination of a man is in her mind that she'd never
Mhm.
been able to capture anyway. So a young lady grow up resenting the fact she has no dad, resenting men just as well as her mom resents men. And then you
Mhm.
grow up thinking, I don't need a man, I'm independent. And that young lady goes out and lives that out. And then she ends up
Yeah.
with men who she hate because he has to be a beta male to even want to deal with that. Or she's
Yep.
with no man, but she's sexually active with men. Therefore, then she
Mhm.
have children. And then when you have a boy, as a woman who hates men, I don't need a man. You have a boy, and you have never been able to capture a good man, and you've never seen one. You create this fake man in your mind, and you try to make your son that fake man, the one that's gangster, but he's also a doctor. You know what I'm saying? All this old crazy stuff that's
That's right.
unimaginable. And then that young man grows up. He doesn't have a dad. He never had a man tell him, I love you, I'm proud of you. Then he
Mhm.
becomes to try to get validation from other things, either gangs, violence, trying to prove himself. And all of those things continue to matriculate through the community over time. And I think it's just destructive, and we're seeing it. Just like you said earlier, we're seeing it. These YNs going out here doing
Yeah.
takeovers. And before we get back to the show, I want to tell you guys about Synergy. If you're tired of energy drinks that spike you up, make you jittery, and then crash you later, Synergy is built differently. Synergy Day gives you clean, steady energy and focus with natural caffeine from green tea. Synergy Night helps you wind down so that you can rest, you can wake up clean, not groggy. It's a simple day and night system made with natural ingredients, no sugar spikes, and no synthetic stimulant overload. Go to synergylife.com and try it for yourself. Better energy, better rest, better rhythm. And you hit a point on the head, and I hope people get this from our conversation, because it's not just about bashing black people. I think this is an ill across society. It's just
Yes.
that disproportionately, black people are
Yes.
holding on to it. Like any household that's a single parent household is not as effective as a two-parent household, generally speaking. But unfortunately, the black community is by and large exposed to that more than any other community. Same thing with lower income, education,
Yep.
incarceration, police interaction. All of those
Yep.
things make the Black community a lot more affected by these things. And it's only a few
Absolutely.
people willing to talk about it.
That's exactly right. And the few people who are willing to talk about it, of course, are demonized and told, I've been called every, coon and Uncle Tom and Auntie Tom and bootlicker and fill in the blank. I mean, whatever. It's white noise, pardon the pun, to me now. And there's it's but the point is this. And this brings up another interesting point, Brandon, because my whole life I always heard that I wasn't black enough, that I was, I talked like white people and I wanted to be white and I was called half breed and Creole and all of the things that people of my complexion, I say that I'm butterscotch, but a lot of people of my complexion sort of get that sort of knife in the back, right? When you're going, hang on, wait. I thought I was in this community. I thought I was in the community at large, and I thought my sort of sub community was black people. But now you're telling me I'm not, like, I'm out. I'm not invited to the cookout. So that is very confusing to a child. I was very fortunate though to have had parents who checked it quick. They hard checked it, and it was a non-issue, and I was able to. It was water off a duck's back, when I heard it henceforth. But it's a very confusing thing to hear that you're not okay because of the color, and again, an immutable characteristic. I was born exactly the way God wanted me to be born,
Right.
exactly the hue, exactly the shade, as are white people, as are Asian people, as are Mexican people, like everybody is exactly as God designed them to be in his image. So if black people have such a problem with white people, then what are they saying about God is my
Right.
question.
Right. I love that you said that. I'm hoping that people can retain into their consciousness some of the things that we're saying. Two things, because I got about 5 minutes left. I want to make it short and sweet for you. We have to do this again if you have time. But
Of
two
course.
things, I just real quick about Martin Luther King, and then I want to talk about your foundation that you started, right? And so Martin Luther King is a hot topic. Ever since I met Chad Jackson and I saw some of the things that he discovered, and obviously you both have developed something that I guess you guys put out the MLK project. Um, Ever since I saw that, I started to really turn away from Martin Luther King and all the ideas that we have been lied to and told that we should embrace and that it was best for our society. I always questioned Martin Luther King because of the fact that the desegregation part, the forced
Mm,
desegregation and forcing us into these white schools when black people had their own schools and transportation and they had an opportunity to kind of build a foundation and then they can desegregate, just like
yeah,
every other culture has done. The Chinese they got Chinatown. The Jewish
that's
people
right.
got Jewish coalitions that they work together to get an established foundation. And so when
Yeah.
I started thinking about that, I didn't really like kind of his perspective. And then when I saw all the other stuff, but just in a very short, I guess, synopsis, can you explain what you think of Martin Luther King and the movement, and how it affects America today?
Yeah, I mean, the stepdaughter of a man who marched with King. My stepdad was born and raised in Birmingham. This was something that we were all very proud of in my family growing up, right? And so I am definitely now sort of like the ostracized, oh my God, he would roll over in his grave if he knew what you were saying right now kind of person in my family. But the reality is this, and this is why I was so honored to work with Chad on the MLK project, is because at the underpinning of all of Chad's work is Christ and him crucified, period. And what really Martin Luther King was preaching was not the gospel of the kingdom. He was preaching the gospel of social justice. And
Mm,
and so that is sort of like an infiltration that was very methodical. Like I said, it's Marxist ideology. I mean, he was a known communist. He went to a communist seminary. He was, Stanley Levison was his right-hand man, his speechwriter. All of them speeches were plagiarized and or ghostwritten. And so King was an absolute fraud, but he was also a useful idiot. And by idiot, I mean the Bible says that anyone who denies the deity of Christ is a fool. So I'm calling him an idiot from that perspective. This is someone who had a picture of Gandhi over his dinner table in his house. This is a person who said that, all religions and all ideologies about religions are welcome and in terms of the kingdom. It's not true. So he really you're going to be hard pressed to find him actually talking about Jesus and talking about the gospel ever. So what he talked about was the marginalized Black person and marching, and I am a man, and that somehow that the government was the arbiter of how Black people are to be judged in society. The government is the arbiter of determining the value of Black people. We need this, and the government has to give it to us. So it was all about getting Black people to suck from the government teat generationally. That is the problem I have with Martin Luther King, that he literally denied the deity of Christ. He denied the virgin birth. He denied the resurrection, and he taught the gospel of social justice to Black people as a replacement theory for the gospel. That's the issue I have with him.
Oh my goodness. I think people gonna be mad, but I don't care because Martin Luther King, and then with what
He's a
you
sacred
said,
cow. He's a sacred cow.
with what you said, it's obviously true. It's evidence. You guys had a documentary out of it. All the evidence is there. People don't like it, then they need to go do their research and quit being silly. But
Yeah.
also, he got caught in the orgies and all kind of other stuff that the
Yes.
government was tracking him. He was doing all kinds of stuff. That
Correct.
man supposed to be a pastor. I know everybody ain't perfect, but brother, you doing that and you supposed to be Martin Luther King? Eh,
Oh yeah, I mean, he's on. It's on record. I mean, you can hear Vince Ellison talking about this in the documentary. He's on record talking. He was abusive toward women. The night before he was assassinated, he had committed adultery twice, and was physically abusive to a woman. So that all happened like in one night, like that, one night. The night before he was assassinated. So, but again, there was even, some talk about that he needed to be brought under control. They were looking to replace him because his activity was so
mm,
nefarious. So he had really, this was not a person who was a man of God. He was not. The church and the Bible, and whenever he chose to insert God, it was a front. He was really ushering in Marxist ideology and communism into this country. And he was an eloquent orator, right? He was able to speak. He spoke very well. His cadence and his diction and all of that was very infectious to people. And so that was used. Stanley Levison really used that to the communist advantage. And he was a mark. King was a mark. And again, useful idiot. He was used by the Communist Party and by Marxists to drive those ideologies into this country and to prey on the most vulnerable group of people, which was Black people. Why?
you
Because they had already started to abandon the faith.
you know what, D? This is it's just crazy that, and I look at it. Most of the Black leaders that we are told to look up to are all just terrible.
Terrible.
I don't know if we can find any that would have a statue that you can walk up to and be proud of. Because Martin Luther King wasn't what they said he was. Jesse Jackson and all these other guys, they were not. They didn't do as well. And then our first Black president, quote unquote, Barack Obama is terrible too. He want to push Marxism and as a
Oh
Black
my
person,
God.
if you're informed, you can't be proud of any of these people. I mean, you got LeBron James, who I think LeBron James does an incredible job at not, cheating on his wife and doing a lot of public shenanigans. But what is he doing? Pushing victimhood. What is
Correct.
they love Colin Kaepernick pushing victimhood and lies. Who else did they have out there? Bubba Wallace, the one of the first Black NASCAR drivers. And then what is he? An
Dusty
idiot.
Smollett. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Jesse Smollett.
Yep.
Smollett. He that fool. Ain't nobody watching that show anyway, except Black people and probably women, because ain't no man watching this gay dude on the show.
I've never seen
But
an episode, not one.
what does he do? He has this platform and he's a liar and a fraud. I mean, we
Yes.
got we got I forget his name. That fool chase ambulance every time somebody gets in trouble or a Black person gets killed by a white person. You see him, Benjamin Crump.
Oh
One
yeah.
of the most prominent lawyers we got is a
Yep.
crook. I mean,
Yep. Sharpton.
Al Sharpton. What is
Yeah.
the other guy that's supposed to have that school? Dr. Umar Johnson.
Oh God.
He's supposed to be prominent. Fraud. I mean, I wish we can.
Yeah.
I
I mean,
wish we
it's
can get.
laughable.
I wish we can get some people that are, because all the good people they try to suppress and they go, oh, you're a sellout, Uncle Tom Coon, bootlicker, you work for the white man, and they shun
Yeah.
us out of the community. D.L. Hughley is another one that, I mean,
Good
we love
Lord.
D.L. Hughley until he went crazy. Eric
Yeah.
Spears was one of my favorite comedians. He was one of my
Yeah.
favorites. And that fool in my DM saying I'm crazy and I'm cooning for the white man. So anyway, I know we're running low on time. I just want you to give a quick pitch of your nonprofit because I know you're doing a lot of things for women in sports. And can you give us a quick synopsis about that and then tell us where we can follow you on social media?
Yeah, so Saving Title IX is the nonprofit. We are just at the infancy stages of launching. So we're in the process right now of even just filing for our 501c3.
Oh, I love that.
But I was kind of thrust into activity with it when last year when Simone Biles lost her mind on Riley Gaines. So I obviously am a Title IX athlete. I would not have had the gymnastics career I had if not for Title IX. So I'm a beneficiary of Title IX. And with men being able to infiltrate women's sports and pretend to be girls, pretend to be women, and compete against women, obviously the playing field is not even close to being level. I'm not a girl who thinks that women can do everything men can do. We can't, and we don't want that smoke anyway.
Yeah.
But women not having I can't imagine if when I was competing in gymnastics, if a man was able to tumble and vault against me, I would have been competing for second out of the gate. Like it would not even have been a close race. So my nonprofit that I have with my partner, she's my best friend since 10th grade. We are pulling to all of our resources together. She's really very knowledgeable in terms of on the government level, the local government level, and I'm obviously the advocate as it relates to women having safe spaces to compete. And so we are, again, at the beginning stages, but we are launching our nonprofit to help support girls and women keep their sports safe. You know, President Trump had, he issued an executive order, but that is not codified into law. And there's a lot of things that are still happening right now, today, where boys and males and men are still competing as girls. They're not girls, but they're competing as girls against girls and whipping their butts. So I am never going to let up. I'm never going to take my foot off the gas about this. And I think that, as administrations change and things get undone and redone and undone and redone, as they did with Trump and Obama and Trump and Biden, we've got to be very diligent in making sure that girls have a level playing field to compete against each other and be able to actually contend for championships and scholarships as they should be able to.
I love that. Well, I'm definitely a supporter of that. As soon as you guys get it up and running, and if you do the tax exempt status, let me know. I would love to throw some blessings your way, and I know that people that are watching this would love to do the same. So, where can people follow you? And I guess in preparation of the formation, where can they go to the website of your nonprofit?
We're still building the site right now, but everybody can follow me on @BuiltDifferentLife on Instagram and TikTok.
Perfect.
@BuiltDifferentLife.
Built Different Life. Yeah, we'll put the link for you guys in the description section, and we'll put the
Awesome.
name of your nonprofit in there so people can keep it in their mind and look it up. But Dee, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed the conversation. We got to do this more. We need to get a panel with me, you, Chad, and some others,
Love
and
it.
even get some people on there that disagree with us, because the conversation about Martin Luther King need to be had. The conversation about Black success, the conversation about the future moving forward. All that needs to be discussed, and I think it only is valuable if we discuss these things against others who disagree with us. And I think that
Yes.
people have a good platform to decide what they believe is true based on facts and reality. So, Dee, thank you so much. God bless you, and hopefully I'll have you back.
Thank you so much, Brandon. I really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for the conversation. Blessings.
All right, thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I told you a wonderful, wonderful interview. It is interesting to find people who have common sense, who are educated, and everybody gets mad at me and they go, "You always talking about black people." No, I'm talking about the dumb ones, the crazy ones that don't do right, that ain't all that crazy stuff that they do. I love black people who are doing the right thing, who are educated, who believe in themselves, who are not playing a victim every day. So anyway, Dee is a perfect example of one of those black people whom I love.